many an insightful conversation. Good morning, Jerome Paul.
Well, good morning to you and good morning to all of the Ugandans out there and pretty much to everybody who is watching us this particular Tuesday morning. Well, back in the time, such weather was something that was pretty much predictable. But when you look at February coming to an end and the least time you expect rain to pour is when you see it pouring. So Monday night, saw some areas get some rain. And even as today morning, you get to realize that in Kampala it is also raining. And it is funny to me because in the afternoon we shall be having some hot temperatures. But besides that, good morning. And well, welcome on board to Good Morning Uganda.
Yes, indeed. Welcome aboard to Good Morning Uganda. And of course, I do not move alone as a lady on the team. There is someone that is the other person that shares my name. Good morning, Olive.
Good morning, Olive. How are you today?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. The weather is really nice. The only challenge is that it got a little too windy, especially last night in certain areas and this morning. And while making your way to work, you realize that some fences fell, some trees actually fell, and a number of property also destroyed in certain parts of Kampala that I could tell by the time I got to work. So let's be careful and let's make sure that wherever we are safe. Because we're also entering into a rainy season, so I guess it goes without saying that what we're headed for is what we are starting to see in these days. Otherwise, welcome to the show and good morning.
Well, speaking of the weather, today, as of this minute, we are at 20 degrees Celsius and it is mostly cloudy, but tonight we might partly get mostly cloudy and humid weather, and we might get thunderstorms at some point in the day and in the night. But I believe that this is a welcome transition from the heat wave that we have been experiencing, especially on Sunday. On Sunday, we were literally being grilled because we were at 28 degrees Celsius.
Wednesday we were at 31.
Imagine that. Imagine
that.
That
was last week.
Yeah,
yes.
Wednesday last week.
Yes. So yeah, like Sonko put it, climate change is changing the weather as we used to know it. In the months when you used to expect rain, now you find that it is mostly hot. And in the months when you expect hotness or heat, then you're going to be receiving rains, as evidenced by what we saw in the month of January. Well, regarding some of the issues that have been happening in the country, on Sunday, the head of the Ndiga clan was murdered in Lunguja. And now new updates indicate that the people who murdered him are actually part of the Ndiga clan. Yes. So this is not an outside job. Police is still investigating to find out the, what's that called? The motive yes. of the murder. But yes, investigations are still ongoing. But what we know right now is that the head of the Ndiga clan was murdered by people from the same clan that he headed. And also, burial will not take place until a replacement for him is found. Now, Jerome Paul, I know you've been following this story closely, but of course also mentioning what the police report showed as of last year. How many murders did the police report that happened last year?
Oh, the reported cases or the registered ones with police were 303. That is quite a huge number if you're to look at it. And well, this is also another case of the murders. This time round it's 2024, so amongst those that are going to be in the annual report come 2024, that will rather come 2025 when we are reviewing this particular one. But also what I also loved about the entire story, or besides the entire breaking of everything, is the fact that one of the gentlemen who was actually leading the mob that went after their assailants was free to speak to the media. However much many of the Ugandans are worried about how safe he will be, having come out publicly, you know, to reveal everything that happened as they were actually tracing down their assailants. But of course, this is a huge sign to the Ugandans out there that we can put an end to such levels of crime, besides the situations that may occur. But if at all we, we come together, try to prevent crime. I'm not actually saying that we come together to continue with the mob justice.
With the mob justice, yes.
But however, trying to remind Ugandans that, well, seeking for, a crime-free environment is something that we can all stand for, and we can put measures. That means we can report such cases, try to come out and give evidence in regards to the investigation that police is coming up with. But also, Monica, yesterday there was around 8 o'clock on social media, there were images, or I would say pictures, that were making rounds regarding 3 of some of the great men in East Africa. That is the president of Uganda, who is at times called the Lion of East Africa by his counterpart, that is President William Ruto of Kenya, and then the leading opposition leader in Kenya, that is Raila Odinga, met the president of Uganda at his farm in Chisozi.
Yes.
So when this particular
grazing.
Exactly. So he took them around, and I think many discussions were ongoing as the president was doing his his usual pastoralic duties at his farm.
Yes.
And then you realize that many were looking at it in quite a different kind of perspective. But also, you have to remember, Raila Odinga is seeking for the AU chairmanship.
Yes.
So coming in to get some advice from the old man of the clan in regards to East African politics is not a bad thing, if you ask me.
And
But
also,
again,
it goes without saying that President Museveni is one of the Pan-Africanists that we have from the 60s, 70s, that is still relevant today. So seeking his advice, seeking his guidance is not really a bad state. Chantal, you had something?
Yes, the last I checked, when William Ruto was, there were allegations in the first place, or there were speculations that he was coming in as president of Kenya, and then they were saying he shouldn't be meeting President Museveni. Apparently, these were Kenyans and some of the opposition members. Apparently, they have nothing to learn from President Museveni, and then it turns out he's the one coming to borrow a leaf from President Museveni. How events turn so fast.
But for the bilateral relations between the two countries and everything, you've got to work hand in hand with
I get it. And that is why President William Ruto coming is okay. But now Raila Odinga, I feel like this is a political move that is you know how you
Yes,
like I'll use this to get what I want. But maybe it's not genuine, really. I mean, we've seen in politics someone tries to rally for support, but not because they really believe in you, but because you hold a certain maybe authority that can help them get what they want.
But anyways, there's always one way to find out. We wait to see what will really happen.
And of course, someone said that in most cases when it comes to politics, the people or the fans or supporters are more of in the opposition than the leaders of the parties that they follow.
Themselves.
Now you can use that information
The way I
as you see. You can use it as you see fit, but if it comes to when it comes to East African affairs, and if it comes to the economies of our states, then anything goes. Hopefully this conversation that the two, actually the three, because I was going to say that 2 leaders of state, but then there was a third one who is not really a leader of a state, but he is a pivotal member in Kenya's politics. Now, we hope that the conversation, whatever it was, that it will bring our nations even closer. And of course, with that, we now delve into our local news. And we will start with the National Identification and Registration Authority, NIRA, which has set 2 weeks for the recruitment of assistant registrars and other support staff to facilitate the mass identification renewal exercise. Applications for these jobs is strictly online, and a URL link has been developed to be accessed by interested candidates. NIRA has announced the official commencement of the recruitment process of assistant registrars for the forthcoming mass renewal exercise. A URL link valid for a period of only 2 weeks has been generated starting tomorrow, 27 February 2024, and which is today. And the authority has elaborated on the new features included on the Form 3, which are mandatory for one to register. Unlike the previous registrations, individuals are free to choose the names they wish to appear on their identity cards this time round. And now, speaking matters relocation of Luzira Maximum Prison, the Uganda prisons have not yet received any matching orders for the ongoing transactions between the government of Uganda and the Chinese investor of Tiantang Group for the relocation of Luzira prisons. Frank Baine, the prison spokesperson, says the relocation business is being handled by the Ministry of Internal Affairs and the investor, but Prison Services is operating maximally at Luzira prisons. President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni wrote to the Minister of Internal Affairs and that of Lands, directing them to relocate some piece of land in Buikwe district to relocate Luzira prisons. In the president's letter, the current location of Luzira prison is being gazetted to the Chinese investor of Tiantang Group for development by constructing a 5-star hotel. The Uganda prisons, however, are not moved by the ongoing transaction deals and are not yet officially notified for the action going forward. Now, speaking matters NRM roadmap launch. Come Wednesday, 28th February, which is tomorrow, all roads will be heading to the NRM Secretariat located along Plot 10, Chadondo Road in Kampala, where the party chairman, Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, will be launching the registration exercise of members as well as flagging of the yellow roadmap. However, prior to the Wednesday events, all NRM registrars are starting today, Tuesday, 27 February 2024, convening at the Electoral Commission offices for a 2-day training. Tang Odoi says these are moments they have waited for long, and NRM has invited all relevant members in Kampala today, the 27th of February 2024, at the Electoral Commission offices for an induction. And lastly, in our local news, Namisindwa district has achieved a significant victory in its fight against corruption after it recovered over 8 million shillings from the corrupt parish development committees. These funds were seized during a targeted operation conducted by the District Security Committee, headed by the District Resident Commissioner Imran Muluga. Namisindwa district acted in response to numerous complaints of extortion by PDM beneficiaries, leading to the arrest of several parish development committees. The District Security Committee, headed by Resident District Commissioner Imran Muluga, acted swiftly to address the grievances of the PDM beneficiaries. During the operation, over 8 million shillings were recovered. However, there remains an outstanding amount of 2.5 million shillings, which was also seized in Namboko sub-county. And in light of these developments, residents have been urged to report any further cases of corruption to their leaders to get rid of the vice within the district. The exposure of the extortion practices targeting beneficiaries of the parish development model program occurred during a local accountability meeting known as Baraza. Now, this meeting, organized by the Office of the Prime Minister, shed light on the illicit activities and emphasized the importance of transparency and accountability. Well, with that, we now delve into the international news stories with Chantal Olive.
Now, internationally, according to President Joe Biden, he expects or anticipates a ceasefire when it comes to the Israeli war, and that is by next week on Monday. His comments come amidst reports of some progress reached in the ongoing negotiations involving Israel and Hamas representatives in Qatar. My national security advisor tells me that we are close, Mr. Biden said. Israel launched a large-scale air and ground campaign in Gaza after Hamas gunmen killed about 1,200 people in southern Israel on 7th October last year. The attackers also took 253 people hostage, a number of whom have since been released. The Hamas-run health ministry in the Gaza Strip says at least 29,782 people have been killed in the territory since then, including 90 on Sunday alone. President Biden, whose country is Israel's main ally, was speaking to reporters in New York City about the possible ceasefire. We are close, he said. We are not done yet. My hope is by next Monday we will have a ceasefire. A spokesperson for the U.S. State Department said earlier on Monday that progress had been made in negotiations to release the Israeli hostages in the last several days, but that it remained unclear whether Hamas would accept the latest proposed deal. We've had progress with the conversations we've had between Egypt, Israel, and the United States and Qatar, said the spokesman Matthew Miller. Last week, the U.S. was widely criticized for vetoing a UN Secretary Council resolution demanding an immediate ceasefire in Gaza. Instead, it proposed its own temporary ceasefire resolution, which also warned Israel not to invade the southern Gazan city of Rafah. Israel's government says it has received plans from its military for evacuating civilians from parts of the Gaza Strip ahead of the new ground operations. Israel has been under mounting international pressure not to launch such an offensive in the city, home to many Palestinian refugees who have fled from other parts of Gaza. Moving on, Donald Trump is appealing against a New York judge's ruling that he must pay $454 million in penalties and interest in a civil fraud case. This month's judgment was about $355 million, but the amount has soared with interest, which will keep accruing by at least $112,000 per day. New York Attorney General Letitia James has said if Mr. Trump does not pay, she will seek to seize some of his assets. He was found to have inflated property values to obtain better loan terms. Judge Arthur Engoron also banned the former president from doing business in the state for 3 years. Monday's appeal from the Republican presidential frontrunner means yet another legal case of his will drag further into election season as he prepares for a likely rematch against Democratic President Joe Biden in November. Mr. Trump had said all along he planned on appealing against the ruling, calling it a political witch hunt. His lawyer Alina Habba also said on Monday they hope the appeal court will overturn this fine and take the necessary steps to restore the public faith in New York's legal system. In their court filing, the attorneys said they were asking the appellate division to decide whether Judge Engoron's court committed errors of law and or fact, and whether it abused its discretion or acted in excess of its jurisdiction. The former president's lawyers have also argued that he was wrongly sued under a consumer protection statute typically used to rein in businesses that rip off customers. Mr. Trump's legal team has previously challenged rulings by Judge Engoron at least 10 times, including a gag order. The appeals process would last a year or longer. Mr. Trump could be granted a pause on collection of the judgment if he offers up money assets or an appeal bond covering the amount owed. It isn't clear what route he will take. Mr. Trump's two adult sons and co-defendants, Donald Jr. and Eric, were ordered to pay $4 million each and are barred for 2 years from doing business in New York. They have maintained there was no wrongdoing and joined their father's appeal on Monday. Adding to the drain on his cash reserves, the ex-president was last month ordered to pay $83 million after losing a defamation case to E. Jean Caro, a woman he was found to have sexually abused. In May 2023, he lost a lawsuit against the New York Times and was ordered to pay for the legal expenses of the reporters he had sued. On Monday, one of the reporters involved in the case, Suzanne Craig, tweeted that Mr. Trump had completed the mandated $392,600 payment. According to a Forbes estimate, Mr. Trump is worth $2.6 billion, though it is unclear how much cash he has on hand. He testified last year he has $400 million in liquid assets. Now, speaking matters climate, scientists say they now have a better idea of exactly where and when the margin of Antarctica started melting. They have traced the changing shapes of bumps on the ice surface that mark locations where glaciers are anchored in place. Half a century ago, few of these frozen moorings or pinning points showed much change. Now, since 2000, however, more than a third have reduced in size, emphasizing the acceleration in melting. The research is published in the journal Nature and underscores once again the increasing contribution that ice losses from the continent will make to future sea level rise around the globe. The study's focus was the ice shelves that fringe 75% of Antarctica's coastline. The shelves are the floating fronts of glaciers that have pushed out into the surrounding ocean. That does it for climate news and what is happening across some parts of the world.
Well, thank you, Chantal. Now, Jerome Paul takes us through the press. I wonder what we have today.
Well, with the press, we start off with the New Vision. The headline is Stiff Cutoff Points for Senior 5. The top schools increase enrollment, 93,000 for TVET. And then Opportunities NERA starts recruiting over 10,000 today. So there are opportunities for those seeking for jobs in the New Vision today. Now also, what you missed at the Harvest Money Expo. Then in energy, Auditor General warns against Karuma Dam interest deal as members of Parliament demand details on Luzira prison relocation. There is also a pictorial as President Museveni meets Ruto and Raila Odinga in Kisozi, a pictorial of the three leaders at the front page of the New Vision. Now, in the Daily Monitor today, Nicholas Sengoba writes, he's writing an opinion saying, because every good thing is in Kampala, the numbers are high. The price of land, for instance, is unrealistically steep in Kampala. The roads are always congested, which affects productivity. The air is of poor quality, which affects the health of the people. The army of the urban poor is on the rise, and so is the crime rate, because we all want to have a taste of the lights of the city, yet we don't have serious investment in industrial production. That is something that you can look out for in the Daily Monitor today. Well, besides that, we now cross the borders to Kenya. The Daily Nation is highlighting a budgeted graft, corruption. Former President Uhuru Kenyatta said that the government loses 2 billion Kenyan shillings daily to theft. That's a huge amount of money. Then state moves to address woes of students applying for courses in Kenya. As tycoon Jaffa's farm loses 24-year port grain handling monopoly. Then in succession, Raila allies conditions for Kalonzo as President Museveni hosts President Ruto and Raila Odinga in Uganda. Reprieve as the SHIF deductions now pushed to the month of July, that is in Kenya. Then lastly, from our press review, the Citizen newspaper from Tanzania, the United Kingdom's credit body's solutions for Tanzanian businesses. The UK's export credit agency has expressed its readiness to support the eco-friendly projects in Tanzania with a credit guarantee of nearly £2 billion. That is about 6.4 trillion Tanzanian shillings. Then also, why investors should consider fertilizer value chain. The government is giving views on the same. Ngorongoro eyes 200 billion Tanzanian shillings after royal tour boost. Then also, in the rising woman perspective, Diana, let's do this to further empower youth in Tanzania, she says. Then what 680 billion Tanzanian shillings deal on fuel storage facility at the port means for Tanzania. Then also, Aga Khan Hospital adopts new approach to tackling obesity. That is with the citizen in Tanzania. And well, that is it from our press review this morning.
Well, thank you so much, Jerome Paul. Now, we will take a short break and we will leave you with Believe by Eli Bulamo. When we come back, we will be speaking issues and matters, mental health and mental illness, and how this is affecting many Ugandans today. Stick around.
Live from UPC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Yeah, it's done. Nafuna mulungi natandika hasonga cyari toto najja maseko kuva mu ghetto yeye engore tiroto ngasara toto olara wandera ngama
Conversation. Good morning, Jerome Paul.
Well, good morning to you and good morning to all of the Ugandans out there, and pretty much to everybody who is watching us this particular Tuesday morning. Well, back in the time, such weather was something that was pretty much predictable. But when you look at February coming to an end, and the least time you expect rain to pour is when you see it pouring. So Monday night, saw some areas get some rain. And even as today morning, you get to realize that in Kampala it is also raining. And it is funny to me because in the afternoon we shall be having some hot temperatures. But besides that, good morning. And well, welcome on board to Good Morning Uganda.
Yes, indeed. Welcome aboard to Good Morning Uganda. And of course, I do not move alone as a lady on the team. There is someone that is the other person that shares my name. Good morning, Olive.
Good morning, Olive. How are you today?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. The weather is really nice. The only challenge is that it got a little too windy, especially last night in certain areas and this morning. And while making your way to work, you realize that some fences fell, some trees actually fell, and a number of property also destroyed in certain parts of Kampala that I could tell by the time I got to work. So let's be careful and let's make sure that wherever we are safe. Because we're also entering into a rainy season, so I guess it goes without saying that what we're headed for is what we are starting to see in these days. Otherwise, welcome to the show and good morning.
Well, speaking of the weather, today, as of this minute, we are at 20 degrees Celsius and it is mostly cloudy, but tonight we might partly get mostly a cloudy and humid conversation. Good morning, Jerome Paul.
Well, good morning to you and good morning to all of the Ugandans out there, and pretty much to everybody who is watching us this particular Tuesday morning. Well, back in the time, such weather was something that was pretty much predictable. But when you look at February coming to an end, and the least time you expect rain to pour is when you see it pouring. So Monday night, saw some areas get some rain. And even as today morning, you get to realize that in Kampala it is also raining. And it is funny to me because in the afternoon we shall be having some hot temperatures. But besides that, good morning. And well, welcome on board to Good Morning Uganda.
Yes, indeed. Welcome aboard to Good Morning Uganda. And of course, I do not move alone as a lady on the team. There is someone that is the other person that shares my name. Good morning, Olive.
Good morning, Olive. How are you today?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. The weather is really nice. The only challenge is that it got a little too windy, especially last night in certain areas and this morning. And while making your way to work, you realize that some fences fell, some trees actually fell, and a number of property also destroyed in certain parts of Kampala that I could tell by the time I got to work. So let's be careful, and let's make sure that wherever we are safe. Because we're also entering into a rainy season, so I guess it goes without saying that what we're headed for is what we are starting to see in these days. Otherwise, welcome to the show and good morning.
Well, speaking of the weather, today, as of this minute, we are at 20 degrees Celsius, and it is mostly cloudy, but tonight we might partly get mostly a cloudy and a humid conversation. Good morning, Jerome Paul.
Well, good morning to you and good morning to all of the Ugandans out there, and pretty much to everybody who is watching us this particular Tuesday morning. Well, back in the time, such weather was something that was pretty much predictable. But when you look at February coming to an end, and the least time you expect rain to pour is when you see it pouring. So Monday night, saw some areas get some rain, and even as today morning you get to realize that in Kampala it is also raining. And it is funny to me because in the afternoon we shall be having some hot temperatures. But besides that, good morning, and well, welcome on board to Good Morning Uganda.
Yes, indeed. Welcome aboard to Good Morning Uganda. And of course, I do not move alone as a lady on the team. There is someone that is the other person that shares my name. Good morning, Olive.
Good morning, Olive. How are you today?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. The weather is really nice. The only challenge is that it got a little too windy, especially last night in certain areas and this morning. And while making your way to work, you realize that some fences fell, some trees actually fell, and a number of property also destroyed in certain parts of Kampala that I could tell by the time I got to work. So let's be careful, and let's make sure that wherever we are safe. Because we're also entering into a rainy season, so I guess it goes without saying that what we're headed for is what we are starting to see in these days. Otherwise, welcome to the show and good morning.
Well, speaking of the weather, today, as of this minute, we are at 20 degrees Celsius, and it is mostly cloudy, but tonight we might partly get mostly a cloudy and a humid conversation. Good morning, Jerome Paul.
Well, good morning to you and good morning to all of the Ugandans out there, and pretty much to everybody who is watching us this particular Tuesday morning. Well, back in the time, such weather was something that was pretty much predictable. But when you look at February coming to an end, and the least time you expect rain to pour is when you see it pouring. So Monday night, saw some areas get some rain, and even as today morning you get to realize that in Kampala it is also raining. And it is funny to me because in the afternoon we shall be having some hot temperatures. But besides that, good morning, and well, welcome on board to Good Morning Uganda.
Yes, indeed. Welcome aboard to Good Morning Uganda. And of course, I do not move alone as a lady on the team. There is someone that is the other person that shares my name. Good morning, Olive.
Good morning, Olive. How are you today?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. The weather is really nice. The only challenge is that it got a little little too windy, especially last night in certain areas and this morning. And while making your way to work, you realize that some fences fell, some trees actually fell, and a number of property also destroyed in certain parts of Kampala that I could tell by the time I got to work. So let's be careful, and let's make sure that wherever we are safe. Because we're also entering into a rainy season, so I guess it goes without saying that what we're headed for is what we are starting to see in these days. Otherwise, welcome to the show and good morning.
Well, speaking of the weather, today, as of this minute, we are at 20 degrees Celsius, and it is mostly cloudy, but tonight we might partly get mostly a cloudy and a humid conversation. Good morning, Jerome Paul.
Well, good morning to you and good morning to all of the Ugandans out there, and pretty much to everybody who is watching us this particular Tuesday morning. Well, back in the time, such weather was something that was pretty much predictable. But when you look at February coming to an end, and the least time you expect rain to pour is when you see it pouring. So Monday night, saw some areas get some rain, and even as today morning you get to realize that in Kampala it is also raining. And it is funny to me because in the afternoon we shall be having some hot temperatures. But besides that, good morning, and well, welcome on board to Good Morning Uganda.
Yes, indeed. Welcome aboard to Good Morning Uganda. And of course, I do not move alone as a lady on the team. There is someone that is the other person that shares my name. Good morning, Olive.
Good morning, Olive. How are you today?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. The weather is really nice. The only challenge is that it got a little too windy, especially last night in certain areas and this morning. And while making your way to work, you realize that some fences fell, some trees actually fell, and a number of property also destroyed in certain parts of Kampala that I could tell by the time I got to work. So let's be careful, and let's make sure that wherever we are safe. Because we're also entering into a rainy season, so I guess it goes without saying that what we're headed for is what we are starting to see in these days. Otherwise, welcome to the show and good morning.
Well, speaking of the weather, today, as of this minute, we are at 20 degrees Celsius, and it is mostly cloudy, but tonight we might partly get mostly a cloudy and a humid conversation. Good morning, Jerome Paul.
Well, good morning to you and good morning to all of the Ugandans out there, and pretty much to everybody who is watching us this particular Tuesday morning. Well, back in the time, such weather was something that was pretty much predictable. But when you look at February coming to an end, and the least time you expect rain to pour is when you see it pouring. So Monday night, saw some areas get some rain, and even as today morning you get to realize that in Kampala it is also raining. And it is funny to me because in the afternoon we shall be having some hot temperatures. But besides that, good morning, and well, welcome on board to Good Morning Uganda.
Yes, indeed. Welcome aboard to Good Morning Uganda. And of course, I do not move alone as a lady on the team. There is someone that is the other person that shares my name. Good morning, Olive.
Good morning, Olive. How are you today?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. The weather is really nice. The only challenge is that it got a little too windy, especially last night in certain areas and this morning. And while making your way to work, you realize that some fences fell, some trees actually fell, and a number of property also destroyed in certain parts of Kampala that I could tell by the
anxiety disorders. But of these, the biggest number, 2.9%, is women compared to men. And of course, in the grand scheme of things, this is a representation of 29.7% of women compared to 23.1%. As a woman, what do you think could be the reason why many women are reporting with anxiety disorders?
You know, that the part that people do not understand most, or maybe they now know, or they're starting to know about mental health and all these challenges, is that it has a lot to do with emotional health. And a woman is an emotional being. So let's start from there.
Okay.
If I asked you, how are you, or how, if let's take a sample of married women. If you asked married women, how is your marriage? One, they are raised to know that when you're going into marriage, there is suffering in there. And when you get there, guma, that's what they tell them. The man beats, does he feed? Does he fend for you guys? Does he pay rent? Does he pay school fees? Guma, beating is, I mean, that's not a big issue. You get it? No, this man is an emotional abuser. Who are you going to explain to emotional abuse and they will understand the emotional abuse? If I asked just 5 people around UBC, for example, how many would understand to the depth of emotional abuse, and they would think it is a reason as to why someone can even leave their home? They would tell you, no, you're just being a child, you're being young, you don't know what you want. But let's face it, emotional abuse is one of the causes, the biggest causes of mental health challenges, because you're going to find that when someone is messing with you emotionally, that means they have access to you mentally or psychologically, and the moment those two aspects are affected when it comes to mental health, you are down. Everything is not going to move. That is why you'll find women with high blood pressure, you'll find them with anxiety issues, you'll find them depressed, and that's majorly because their emotional health has been attacked and affected.
Okay. Now, according to a study that was conducted by Butabika Hospital and Makerere University last year, it found that more women are battling severe anxiety and depression than their male counterparts, who are mostly affected by alcohol abuse. And according to this study, over 2,067 people were sampled from the districts of Kapchorwa, Adjumani, Bushenyi, and Butambala. And participants were selected from both schools, those seeking health services in lower health facilities, and the community. And according to the results from this report, 39% of women suffered severe anxiety against 24% of males, whereas when it came to depression, 12.6% of women were still struggling with depression compared to 5% of men. But now the conversation moves on even further. In as much as we've seen those numbers and how women are struggling, we want to cast the net wider, and this is where I come to you, Sonko. When it comes to healthcare and infrastructure, what challenges do individuals face in accessing mental health services?
Before I even go into that, I want us to look at the types of the mental illness in question here. When you look at depression, which is, I actually want to stand away from the statistics that are revealing it's only women who are being affected.
No, they are not saying it's only women being affected,
majority.
But the majority of
Yes.
those affected
And
are
I think
women.
these statistics are a little bit making it even hard to find the bigger problem, which again is one of the challenges there. Now, when you look at some of the mental illness types, we have mood disorders. Now, this include depression and bipolar rather.
Yes.
And then we have anxiety disorders. These are pretty much where most of the women are. Then personality disorders. Now, personality disorders here, I want to believe in one way or the other, if you've been able to interact with many of the Ugandans, you will tell that this person has an issue with the way they interact with people, and or their personality is not upright. And this goes back to what Chantal mentioned, the background or the family upbringing and the same. And then there is psychotic disorders. These are some of the types. Now, going back to the question of the infrastructure that has been placed or that has actually been put in place to curb or to control the level of mental illness or mental health awareness in Uganda, you get to realize that there's a lot that needs to be done. first and foremost in regards to making sure that, for example, with this report showing that the cases are rising.
Yes.
Now, when it comes to the infrastructure, what kind of infrastructure are we talking about here? We're talking about measures, for example, hospitals,
Yes.
like you've mentioned, the departments that we do have in hospitals. You'll get to realize that at times in most hospitals, it is an external kind of facilitation that caters for mental health. So which means at the get-go of the hospital setting up,
They don't
think about it as an issue or as
Something to give priority.
Yes, exactly. So they don't look at it as, let's say, surgery or let's say,
It's not
you know,
prioritized.
it's not prioritized. And even when you go into hospitals, you realize even some of these doctors are going through some of these kind of phases.
I mean, the
Because-
report shows that
exactly.
a good number of Ugandans, because according to this report by Makerere University and Butabika Hospital,
Yes.
You'll find that 3 in 10 people are struggling with mental illness
Exactly.
or mental health related challenges.
And then back again to the kind of infrastructure that is in question here. There's also the fact that what has society, you know, put up in regards to mental illness? How do we deal with certain cases? Because at times we do share, you know, ideas on how to deal with mental illness and depression, and you'll find that someone will say, at times it's because of poverty or because you don't have money, that once you have money,
You're
the
okay.
depression will actually
But
go switch
maybe
off
we
immediately.
need
To a certain degree.
You know, to a certain degree, yes.
Maybe
But then you realize,
people need to understand, first of all, what is depression?
you know, it is actually a state which is involving lots of phases. One of which is unhappiness, uncertainty. And when you're in such a situation of depression, you do realize that, of course, the highest percentage of the unhappiness is caused by lack of money, or, you know, the inability to clear off certain things off your desk. That means with the kind of generation we're in, the bills that you have.
Yes.
So that brings in the level of the unhappiness. And then the uncertainty bit is where you're unsure about where you're going to be tomorrow. You're unsure of whether what you're doing is going to result into something that can be highly recognized. But again, back to the infrastructure part, you do realize that also with all these discussions coming out, there are concerned parties that address these issues, even take it to the floor of our lawmakers, yes, in regards to the, you know, to the mental illness and mental health awareness. But how far or how deep of a conversation or a topic has the Parliament of Uganda looked at mental health as a bigger issue?
Like how much time
You know, how
has
much
been
time
allocated
exactly.
to this? What's important?
Because when you also look at the committees that we have today that sit, it clearly shows you that it's not something that is being looked at. But we have young children who we are actually losing due to depression.
True.
You know, we are having, you know, we're having people who are dying silently. I think it goes back to even the other, you know, opinion that was actually written in one of the papers where someone said that many people are silently dying with the word, "I am okay."
True.
Because any other time when someone asks you, "Good morning, how are you?" the first answer is, "I am fine, I'm doing well."
Let me give you the
I'm
genesis
okay.
of I am okay. Let me take you back to your primary school or when you were starting to learn English. The first thing they taught you was when they ask you, "How are you?" how do you respond? I am okay, I'm fine. That is the genesis. We've been fashioned to talk about it like that. And we've not been fashioned to express ourselves to a point of when someone asks you, you have the choice to say, I am either okay or I am not. You are told when they say, how are you? I am fine. Even a child who was not going to school or someone who was not going to school, when you ask them, how are you? The answer is, I am okay. It's just how we've been fashioned.
It is, I'm okay. It's more like even in Uganda when they say wasuzocha, it's a very rare time for someone to say nasuze bubi. Even if they are sick, they will say burungi. So you wonder.
Have you been to hospitals and the doctor says, oh, so how are you today? And you're like, I'm fine.
I'm fine. But
yet you've
you're
gone to
not
hospital for a
feeling well.
checkup.
Yes. And
Okay, now speaking of hospitals, we still go back to issues like stigma. And I would like to know from you, or from one of you, what society's role has been in inhibiting individuals from seeking help.
We're segregative, I think.
Yes, we are segregative, but the first thing I see and notice is the fact that we do not know how to have conversations about mental health. There is a myth about, there are different myths about mental health, but one of those is anyone who is having a mental health issue is mad. Let me put it like that. Oyo mulalu. You see someone with a bipolar issue, it may not even be very pronounced, but because of the mood swings, because of the personality changes, this person is regarded as mad. Now, without us having the understanding of what mental health is, then we start putting them in certain categories. Oyo mulalu. But this person is mad.
And mad is a bad thing.
Yes,
Yet
according to society.
An illness.
That can be treated, yes, that can be treated. So society, first of all, perceives mental health and mental illness as an extreme of this person shouldn't be living in society, shouldn't be with us, they should be locked away somewhere. That's the first problem we have. Then when you get into after understanding that people do not know what mental health is, then you get to the point where when you are diagnosed or when you are seen as someone who has an issue, and it could even happen to someone who is depressed. Someone is depressed and they're having these mood swings. Today they are okay to work, tomorrow they are not. And at the end of the day, if it's at work, you're going to get challenges. So people have not understood that mental health is a disease. Or is a challenge that is a challenge that needs to be dealt with.
Yes.
And then now we start categorizing people and then we start segregating them. I can't deal with
Instead of
Chantal.
helping them.
Yes, I can't deal with Chantal. One moment she's okay, the moment the next moment she's moody. I don't want such energy. We tend to say, that's negative energy, I don't want. Yet that person probably needs help.
Okay, so now speaking stigma, how can increased awareness help to break down the stigma that is surrounding mental illnesses?
One, it goes back to how we address the people who come to us in such situations. You get to look at some of the government initiatives that have actually been put in place. Not so effective as such, but there are some. For example, bringing the mental health and putting it into the primary health care system. That has been some of the efforts the government is trying to do. Why? It is to ensure that if someone is going to some of these hospitals from the local settings and everything, to see that at least the Ugandans are aware, or people, deep in the villages are aware that if at all you're not okay, it may not be, you may not be okay in regards to sickness, but it may be due to how you perceive certain things in life. And that means it goes back to how your mindset is set. Rather is actually, looking at different things. And this is a little bit more of the journey that we want to achieve as a country. But then it also goes back now to people in the working environments, for example.
Yes.
When you look at some offices in the private sector, many have actually started employing what you could call I'm forgetting the word, what could call employee, employee counselors who come in a way to understand the kind of employee they're having, to assess the level of growth of the employee. Because at times most companies focus on promotions, but then they never mind about why is this,
They don't even focus on promotions. They focus on profits.
On profits, exactly.
Yes.
And then if at all you've worked well and all that, at times they will promote you. But when you go back to some of those companies that have actually now centered their efforts on counseling to see why is this employee who was actually working so well in the first year having less results or having less vibe.
Why is there a decline?
A decline in their performance. And all of that, is it because of the less pay? Is it because of delay in salary? Is there something affecting them at home?
Is there a challenge back home? Yes.
So these are, again, some of the things that we can clearly do that will lead us to the better side of dealing with mental health. But then also, you look at schools. This is where you see that there are cases, the alarming cases also in schools is something that we really need to focus on as a country.
Yes.
Because many of the children or many of the students come from different backgrounds. And at times, many do not have time to even sit down and talk to their parents. So at the end of it all, you do realize that it will be very impactful if teachers are well equipped with knowledge of how to deal with circumstances of a child who is not happy. Because at times as a teacher, because they spend most of the time during school with these children, they can easily tell the changing patterns of a child. Just as much as a mother can tell that my child is reacting differently to certain things and situations. So the teachers as well need to have that empowerment, because what that empowerment will mean or what it will do, it will enable them to overcome, any kind of, outbreak of mental health effects in some of these children, which can lead to depression or severe kind of, illnesses that can be brought up by the kind of depression that a child may face. So I think society needs to, first of all, look at how mental health affects everybody. And then after looking at it in that way, we then look at how we can empower each other. Because today, I may look like I am well or I have no mental illness whatsoever, but silently, there is something I'm actually dying with.
Well, it doesn't count. It rarely actually shows on
exactly. The happiest person is normally the one who is actually more depressed.
Actually, there have been many cases of someone that was okay and seemingly okay, posting all these memes, posting all these videos, seemingly happy. There was a trend towards the end of last year where people were saying, post a picture of yourself when you are seemingly happy, but everything was falling apart. And people posted pictures when they were socializing
pictures,
and having a good time. So someone being constantly happy does not necessarily mean that they're okay. And I like that Sonko brought in children when it comes to mental health. In 2022, we lost over 20 children to suicide after the pandemic. Now, that's quite a high number when it comes to children. And it shows that the prevalence of depression among children and adolescents range from 2.9%, which is 58 to 46.3%. And the pooled prevalence of depression among children and adolescents was 23.6%. Normally, when we talk about mental illness or mental health challenges, we think of adults. We do not believe that children are actually struggling as well. And some of the causes of mental illnesses among children or mental health related challenges among children are things such as losing a parent, parents losing a job, so now there is a lifestyle change for the child, and then there is also bullying at school and even by the teachers, because they say words have power.
True.
And sometimes the things adults say to these children can make or break their spirits.
Yes.
The other day I was watching something on online, and this gentleman, a two-time award-winning New York Times writer, said he had been once told by his teacher that he could never write, that he had to think of something else instead of writing. So later on in his 30s, he's moving houses, and a colleague of his sees something he wrote in high school. And a colleague is like, this is so good, why aren't you writing? He's like, no, I don't need that. So the friend submits it to a writing competition, and he wins. And now he has 2 books, a 3rd book coming out. So what am I saying? The things we say to children
Break them.
can make them or break them. Now, I have some views coming through, and the first one is, she says that is from Nancy from Bali, and she says people should be sensitized because most people, more so the youth, think to be free from stress is to involve themselves in addiction of drugs, not knowing it's going to cause mental illness due to unemployment, since most of these people with mental illness are educated. So the government should look into skilling these people freely to curb this stress. I believe that most times people turn to substance use as a coping mechanism.
Yes.
Unfortunately, it leads to more problems. We have had a conversation here with a recovery coach, Bill Bekunda, and he said many people turn to alcohol to find reprieve. But then alcohol exacerbates the problem.
It depresses the body.
It depresses the body, and now they are more sad and more problems are now
And they
going
don't
to
know
come
why
up.
they are more sad, yet what they took was supposed to give them relief. Though at a particular point it might give you that relief, but it has that side effect, let's put it like that. Because for those that drink alcohol will tell you, at a certain point when you're drinking, when you've taken some alcohol, you're going to feel a certain type of way. You're going to feel like you're not thinking about your problems. All you can think about is you're probably going to get even some good sleep, but your body is depressed now. What people don't understand is they think depression is only in the mind, but even your body being tired, your body being fatigued,
Not being able to wake up. And
yes,
do things
the
you're
laziness you
supposed to
feel
do.
sometimes, those are indicators of depression. Your body is depressed. And remember that our body is connected. The brain, every sense on your body, it's a connection of, you know, nerves and everything. The moment that connection is distorted, definitely depression is in there.
Now, Demas says, in response to today's question, the government should strive hard in ensuring that all country people are empowered to ensure that they are in position of providing for their families. Most of the mental illnesses arise from stretched thinking, which doesn't even yield to a solution, and yet the condition demands. So he says poverty is a greater cause for the mental illnesses that we are experiencing in the country today. And as we close, this one says, being a third world state, escalating issues of mental illness are always unstoppable, because a country like Uganda, where the biggest population is below poverty lines, people are always overstressed and depressed, and this starts from households, scratches to the families and to societies at large. You find someone walking while talking alone. Secondly, drug abuse is also a contributing factor. Imagine a described state above, but with no control of dangerous substances. So since drugs are available and affordable, then once one is depressed, of course, they will resort to drugs. This is Cricket Derek Gagamel from Makinde, Luafu. And with that, we will be now closing this, but the conversation continues. We can still continue talking about this on our X app. The hashtag is UBCGMU. My name is Olive. Good morning.
Live from UPC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Pick of the day on UBC. Was brought to you by
MTN Momo Pay is the easy way to pay. Dial star 165 star 3 hash or use the MTN Momo app. You don't need cash. MTN Momo Pay is safe and free.
Yaki Motion Pictures bring
the same people. We are even the same people.
Similar people. We are one. Pamoja, we are one. Use the word pamoja.
From 3rd to May at the National Theatre and Indere Center. Daily screenings are from 4th February to June 20. Supported by UBC Center, Cinemax, Gender, Labor and
Live from UPC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
So right now, I'm actually holding a Hornelli chameleon. And it is said that these ones are commonly found in the Mount Elgon region because they usually love cold places. But it is amazing to know that there is a lot we can do as humans to conserve the wildlife. Imagine if I found this somewhere else, maybe close to my house, close to my compound, I would hit it immediately, not knowing that it is not even dangerous. So this is the conservation that we actually want in our country, saying that everyone is able to play a role to conserve the wildlife, the very many beautiful wildlife species that we have in the country. I am Irene Allen Namisang, and this is the GMU Tourism Express, where we talk about everything that you need to know about Uganda's tourism. And when we talk about tourism, you cannot skip conservation. It is a very beautiful part that makes up the tourism industry. So right now we are at CTC Conservation Center, and we're exploring the different species that we have that are kept here at the CTC Conservation Center. And yes, we are going to do this. Let's roll.
Welcome to CTC. My name is Ambrose. I'll be taking you through. We are going to be dealing with wild animals. Hopefully you came prepared for that, for the best experience. They can kick, they can scratch, they can bite if you don't follow the instructions. But if you follow the instructions, none of the above will happen to you. Make sure when you are with the zebras, you do not go behind them. They are very good at kicking, like horses do. We have foot dips on every section that we have to do precautions not to carry germs and diseases to them. So we must disinfect, we must step in. Animals you're not contented holding, please just ignore them instead of dropping them. And then when you come into the lion section, people will be there to ensure you're all safe. They are playful, they are babies, just like small cats at home. They can scratch in any way, but the staffs will be in to ensure you're all safe. So please, if you have questions, feel free to ask us, and you'll really have the best experience. You're welcome.
Can you tell us CTC in full, though?
CTC is conservation through commercialization. The foot dips. So you step in, there is a disinfectant. So you step in, then you come in. You can come this side. We shall begin from this side. Actually, it's this side. Whoa.
Oh,
No. And over here we have the Nile crocodile. His name is Big Joe. Big Joe is a rescue from Buyukwe district that is along the Nile. And before he was brought here, he had eaten 3 fishermen. So he's a man-eater. He knows how human flesh tastes. He's estimated to be over 80 years old and between 900 to 1,000 kilograms. Crocodiles are semi-aquatic. Sometimes they can stay in water, sometimes on land. So now it is on land. And then we are also emptying its water pond so that we can clean it and maintain it, know that the water is drinking. They don't eat a lot in nature, crocodiles. They can eat once in few months and they are okay. He eats once in a week here, like 5 chicken. That's it. The reason why is they have a lower metabolic rate, so they need a lot of time to digest whatever they have eaten. In nature, if it really eats well, it can go even beyond 6 months without eating. And they are very lazy animals. He can be in the same position for more than 6 hours. He has been here from morning and up to now he's still here.
So he moves then?
He moves, yeah. He moves around. You can see where he began from. You can see the grass is down. He was there in the morning. Then now he extended here.
No, just like how huge he is. Just take us through the, the process of rescuing this man.
Actually, by that time I was not yet here, but they are not very hard to trap them. The moment they tap the mouth and the tail, they are the strongest parts of the crocodile. You can use the tail to hit you, and then the mouth, of course, they can bite. When they are in water, they are very fast. Now here on land, they are very slow.
When did you bring it?
Like 4 years ago. We had the female, but unfortunately she died. She was also very old, but before she died, they had already laid eggs. Crocodiles lay eggs, they don't produce. So we have the first hatchlings. And when she also died, she had eggs in her. When we were doing post-mortem report, we found out that she had eggs. So we picked the eggs and kept them and incubated. Now we have other babies that have hatched from that. So at least we never lost the mother alone. Now we have at least some babies.
I think there is a crocodile farm in
Yes.
Mpigi.
Actually, it's not in Mpigi, I think. Not so sure, but on Masaka Road.
How are you guys working together? Because for them, they keep the crocodiles for meat.
Us, basically, we have these ones for conservation. We don't. These animals also, they matter in nature, and there is a role they. There is a role at least they play, so they shouldn't be killed.
You said you got it from the
Buyukwe, along the Nile.
lake, along the Nile.
Yes, you know, River Nile passes Buyukwe.
Yeah.
I've never seen anything.
Even
Don't put it so near, eh?
Can't it hit the wall?
Not really, you have never had that incident.
we've never heard that it can happen.
I don't think. So we are emptying now, we are emptying this so that we can clean. You see the water, it is always full, so we are emptying it to clean it, and then we add it. That's why you see the water level is down now.
Well, as you're traveling to Uganda, I would definitely recommend and suggest do pass by CTC Conservation Center. It's the only place in Uganda where you get up and close with animals. You will feed the zebras and interact with lions. You'll have lemurs sitting on your shoulders, and you'll have a beautiful day here. So I would definitely suggest do pass by CTC when you have a chance.
Well, and many thanks for sticking around to Good Morning Uganda this cold Tuesday. It is time to check in with the world of business, and of course we're starting it off from the Inspectorate of Government, his office, which has revealed that Noya district councillors will each pay 350,000 Ugandan shillings. Why is this so? This is going to be a fine, and they will have to also return bicycles they distributed to themselves, yet they were meant for village and parish leaders. So according to details here, the district councillors distributed bicycles that weren't supposed to be to themselves. They actually distributed public property amongst themselves. So they've actually been fined 350,000 Ugandan shillings, and on top of it, having to return these bicycles that were meant for parish and village leaders. Of course, when you look at some of the contributing factors of corruption in Uganda today is misuse of public services or misuse of public funds. And in the context here, or in the picture that we have here, you get to realize that most of these cases being in country, areas or districts, it is a clear sign of a bigger picture or a bigger worry of such cases happening within the town centers. Because when you look at this district, grievances coming in here in Nwoya district, the councillors having to take away property that belongs to village chiefs and parish leaders. Remember, some of these bicycles are intended to actually help out in disbursement of government for these village chiefs and parish leaders to actually do their duties as leaders in regards to what the government has put in place. So that means moving from place to place to make sure that they preach the government is gospel, and also try to reach out to the different people in different settlements in the areas. So here, according to the Inspectorate of Government, the details coming in this particular time is to see that first, these bicycles are returned to the district headquarters, but not only that, each of the councillors who received a bicycle will have to be fined 350,000 Ugandan shillings, or will have to pay 350,000 Ugandan shillings as compensation for that particular amount of time and money that they wasted by misusing government or public property. And well, of course, this calls upon all of us to seek for accountability of the funds and services that we are supposed to be receiving, because it is a right of every citizen to receive good service, especially in regards to the fact that we are all taxpayers in one way or the other. Now, aside from that, we now talk matters electricity. As according to details coming in, the Uganda Electricity Transmission Company has now posted a profit of 94.9 billion Ugandan shillings for the period ended June 2023 last year. Now, according to the company, on Friday, it also reported unpaid arrears of about 166 billion shillings resulting from power bills due to different ministries, agencies and departments who are yet to clear their electricity bills. And the Energy Ministry, Ruth Nankabira, described the profit as a good gesture after the UETCL's 15th annual general meeting in Kampala, noting that they've also seen more off-taking of power, which was evacuated by the UETCL during the same period. Now, energy sales, according to the performance report, shows that those grew by 7% from 5.4 gigawatt per hour due to an increase in demand and supply, leading to 1.3 billion shillings in energy sales revenue. Now, when you look at the transmission losses as well, Uganda currently has an installed electricity generation capacity of slightly above 2,000 megawatts, largely from hydropower dams, of which 1,496 megawatts is from large hydropower dams. Now, also, however, annual transmission losses increased to 4.79% from 4.2%. That is against the Electricity Regulatory Authority's 4.6% target. During this particular period, by the way, transmission coverage increased from 3,989 circuit kilometers to 4,218 kilometers with the commissioning of the 132 kilowatt of the Karuma to Lira and 132 kilowatt Karuma to Kawanda and 132 kilovolt of Mutundwe. And well, when you look at this, the time in question here is from July 2022 to June 2023 of what the Uganda electricity is actually highlighting here in this particular report, because they actually posted a 95 billion profit as power losses also surged to 166 billion. Now, the power losses, these particular losses, according to the company, and the company here in question is the Uganda Electricity Transmission Company Limited, in question here shows that with the power losses increasing and also the failure by some of the government ministries, departments and agencies to clear their bills is also leading to these losses. However, there is a high increase in regards to the profits of 96 billion. Well, now, lastly, from the world of business, let's look at the forex market as close of business yesterday. How is the dollar faring, and also how are the different currencies faring on the market, courtesy of the Bank of Uganda. Now, by opening time on Monday, the US dollar was buying at 3,936.25 while selling at 3,946.25. By midday, a few changes. So the US dollar buy at 3,940.96. That was an increase. And then selling was at 3,950.96. It is shooting steadily if you're to look at that. Then closing time, so the US dollar increased further at 3,941.96 for those buying, and then selling was 3,951.96. And the Great Britain pound was buying at 4,993.28 while selling at 5,005.94. Now selling of the pound is now at 5,000 Ugandan shillings as we speak. Now the euro was buying at 4,266.77 while selling at 4,277.60. The Kenyan shilling was buying at 27.09 while selling at 27.16, as the Tanzanian shilling was buying at 1.54 while selling at 1.55. Then the South African rand was buying at 204.25 while selling at 204.77. So if you're getting into the market as of today, this is something that you would definitely have to look out for in the forex market. Well, and that's it from the World of Business, Tuesday, 27th of February. Coming up now is the traffic updates with Olive Monica Najima. Stick around.
It's a chilly morning, but I'm sure many Ugandans are welcome to this change in our weather. Although the change in weather means that the roads are a bit slippery. Now, when it comes to some of the roads that, for instance, when you're coming from the areas of Chira, Najera, Chaliwajala, coming to Ntinda side, you may experience more slipperiness on your roads because some of them patches are being taken off, as according to Chira municipality, to handle the road situation therein. Most of the roads have potholes, so they have decided to take off the top layer of the roads until further notice, when funds will be provided so that the roads can be fixed. But at least for now, the intention is to deal with the potholes. So if you know certain areas, especially around Najera, around Najera 1 as you go to Buwate, but also around Najera 2 as you go to Bulabira Road, and of course in Chira around Mulawa Mall, you know the road situation there. So probably this could be a move in the right direction until later when the funds are provided so that the road can be tarmacked. Welcome to the traffic updates, and we are starting from the areas of Tula in Kawempe, and see how you join Gayaza Road up until you come to town. Now, starting in Tura, you see that where we are now, right before we join the Kawempe Tula Road that will connect you to Gayaza Road, we see that we have red zones around here. There is intense traffic as you join Kawempe Tula Road that connects you to Gayaza Road. Now, on Kawempe Tula Road itself, as you go to Gayaza Road, here you're going to experience a bit of a delay, as evidenced by the orange zones that we are seeing right now. But the good news is that when you move ahead, you are going to find that there is a smooth flow of traffic in this area. But of course, you will experience some red zones, as you can see on your screen as you go ahead. Now, when we connect to Gayaza Road from Tula, Kawempe Tula Road, here we are still going to experience slow movement of vehicles on both sides of the road. That means people that are coming to Kampala, but also people that are going to the side of Gayaza. So you might be delayed in this place. Now we see that there is also traffic jam that is coming through from Erisa Road, joining Gayaza Road, creating further delay on the road for those that are going to the side of town. Now continuing, now we are starting to experience green zones, which indicate that there is smooth flow of traffic along Gayaza Road. But of course, some sections are yellow or orange, which indicates that here you are going to experience a delay. Now at this junction where Mambule Road connects to Gayaza Road, you might experience a delay, but not for so long. And when you move ahead, you will experience, as you're getting closer to the roundabout, now here you're going to experience traffic jam and delays in this section. Now looking at the bypass roundabout as you come from Gayaza side, we see that for those that are going still to the Gayaza Kampala Road, there is still a delay that you're going to experience because of the traffic around here. The traffic tip around roundabouts is usually use the outer side of the roundabout so that you're not stuck in the inner side of it. Now still continuing with Gayaza Road, after the bypass, we see that for the biggest part, as you're approaching areas of Kalere, you're going to experience intense traffic jam, because from what I see here, there is a deep red zone just after the roundabout, which is indicative of intense traffic jam. And as you move ahead, you will still experience traffic jam around Kalere. And for those going to Mawanda Road side, here there is a smooth flow of traffic and you should be able to move. Now those coming in from Monsola Road, joining Mawanda Road, as you can see there, you will experience a delay because we have yellow zones in this section indicative of a slow movement of traffic. So it depends on where you're going, but if we are to go back to Gayaza Road, for the most part after the roundabout, you are going to be delayed. As you can see there, we have a long stretch of a red zone indicative of traffic jam, and it goes on and on until you meet that roundabout that joins Bombo Road and Binaisa Road and takes you to either Wandegea or takes you to the side of Yusufule Road. Around this area, you are still going to encounter maximum delay, especially for the people coming in from Gayaza Road. But also for people coming in from Bombo Road, you are still also going to encounter a delay in this section. And also those that are still continuing with Bombo Road, after this roundabout, you can see that the traffic situation doesn't look any better as you move ahead. You will have to drive for a stretch of time for you to now encounter the green zones that you are seeing there. So if you're going Bombo Road side, be advised. Now for those going ahead with Binaisa Road, for the most part, Binaisa Road still has traffic jam up until it takes you to the roundabout at Dwaliro Road. Now, for those going Dwaliro Road side or coming from that side, there is still traffic jam that is coming through. It is actually extremely intense, and it is coming in from the areas of Kafero Zone Road. Here we see that Kafero Road Zone is also bringing in intense traffic jam. My goodness, this doesn't look good at all. You see, the problem is usually that many people, when it rains, wait to be on the road at the same time. And usually this is what causes the intense traffic immediately after a downpour. And we are seeing this coming in from Cafe Zone Road and Dwaliro Road, joining the roundabout still that takes you to Binaisa Road. So I don't know which part of town you're going to, but if you're going to Katanga pedestrian path, there is still intense traffic coming in from that side, as you can see on your screen. Now that's the most we can do right now. all I can say is that if you're coming from these areas, the traffic situation doesn't look good at all. Now, if you have an appointment, maybe at 9 a.m., this would be the best time for you to actually start moving. Otherwise, it might get worse before it gets better. So hit the road and start the ball rolling on your day. Attack the day in style. Well, you're still watching Good Morning Uganda. Up next is Agenda with Joram Paul Sonko, and I'm Olive Monica Najama.
Live from UPC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Pick of the day on UBC. Was brought to you by
MTN Momo Pay is the easy way to pay. Dial star 165 star 3 hash or use the MTN Momo app. You don't need cash. MTN Momo Pay is safe and free.
Junko. Yo. What Chico? Check the shopping man. What's your secret?
Uganda, haven't you heard of the parish development model PDM?
Yes, I did, but I thought it was just a talk.
No, Sebatia. It is real. I and a few friends together formed a circle, accessed money from the PDM, invested in a portrait project, and now things are moving.
Junko. I thought I was one of your friends.
You are,
but you left me behind.
I didn't leave you in poverty. What you do, just visit your LC2 chairperson and your parish chief and start the process of economic transformation. Just like that. The parish development model is an initiative from the government of Uganda through the Ministry of Local Government designed to transform all lives of Ugandans for the better. PDM, my parish, my development, my life.
UBC is the national public broadcaster. We educate, inform, entertain, and inspire our audiences. You can watch us on free-to-air channel 001, DSTV channel 282, GoTV channel 371, Star Times channel 201, Zuku TV channel 20, and Azam TV channel 350. Even when your subscription expires, you can still watch UBC for free on your pay TV platforms.
Live from UPC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Ulu City Market lies in 4 acres of land with a population of about 4,000 registered market vendors who are doing business in this facility. We really appreciate the initiative of the government to come up with this project that is benefiting not only the business community within the market, but the entire community within actually sub-region. When you look at the market previously, the market used to be not like this one. With the market vendors, they used to sell under papyrus reeds. And we used also to ferry our goods, come and sell, then you take it in the stores or elsewhere. But now, due to this infrastructural development, the vendors now, they are able now to sell, cover your goods, leave it there, and you come and get it the next day when it is safe. The safety of our goods and the convenience of doing business has improved greatly. That makes the local community very, very, very happy when they are doing business in the market now. I want to appeal to my fellow vendors and the community, of the entire Chile sub-region, that we need to embrace and support the government so that they continue also bringing us more development in our region.
previously, in most of these areas that we had prioritized, farmers would produce, but you don't access market because the roads are not there. So you have the middlemen that would have access and they persevere to go into those deep in the villages and they buy with their own prices. They can go there and set prices for you, and yet you are the ones who are producing this food. But now this time with the market linkages, people can now access market because we have bridges that were, streams that were bottlenecks to access by the farmers. Yet has constructed bridges, so farmers can now reach market.
Actually, Zone Industrial is one of the presidential initiatives which is brought here in Achule land to skill our youth. The skilling is free of charge. What you really need, you have to be within the age of 18 to 35. They don't need any requirements apart from being willing. You have to be willing, and a youth who is willing to get the skills. The courses we have started with only 4. That is tailoring, hairdressing, carpentry, and welding. First intake, we registered 212 students from 10 administrative units of Acholi. These students, they recruited them from different districts within the Acholi sub-region. If we continue with this cooperation, many beneficiaries will pass through us, and they will go with enough skills and non-skills, which will change them and later bring them into an economy. We shall really fight poverty in that way.
Live from UPC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Welcome along to our agenda this morning. It's Tuesday, a fruitful one if you were to ask me, because the month is actually coming to an end. We only left with about 3 days. Mathematically, it's just 2. The month is ending on the 29th, which will be a Thursday. So when you look at it in that way, for those who are moving swiftly, it's day 56 of the year 2024 out of the 366 days we are supposed to cover for this leap year. I am Joram Paul Sonko and you're watching Good Morning Uganda. Today we are going to tackle something very sensitive in regards to monetary terms. But besides that, there are lots of issues at hand that need to be understood by you, our viewer, by an employee under the Kampala City Council Authority, especially those who are contracted in situations to do with salary grievances and disparities amongst the many. Well, to just give you a simple background of our conversation today, you get to realize that several of the front workers or employees employed by the Kampala City Council Authority protesting on the issues to do with delay of their salaries. And those are amongst the few issues at hand, like I did mention. But of course, others have actually protesting over unpaid wages for the past 5 months and the failure to submit their contributions to the NSSF, among some of the key issues that they put across. But of course, now we do want to get an authoritative voice to the same matter, to know what is really happening on ground, to get a clear picture of the same issues affecting these employees or some of these workers, especially some of those who are not entirely into the offices, but practically on ground in regards to working or being employed to the Kampala City Council Authority. My guest this morning is Engineer David Luyimbazi, who is the Deputy ED of Kampala City Council Authority, as we dive deeper into understanding the issues at hand in the capital. A very good morning, sir, and many thanks for joining us.
Good morning, Jeremy, and good morning, viewers. It's a pleasure to be here to try and throw some light and clarification on some of the issues that were going on in Kampala capital city.
And looking at the issues here, to my viewer today, this morning. What are some of these grievances that were cited by these particular employees or contracted employees?
Well, the story is more complicated than you see it on the surface.
Okay.
The employees who are actually on the ground doing the work have suffered delayed payment of salaries from their employers, because we do now contract them. We don't employ them directly. So we've contracted about 5 entities to manage sweeping, desilting, and landscaping activities in the different divisions. Now, we pay them on a contract basis. Now, based on the releases that are released to us, the funds that are released to us, we're able to pay for services. If we get 20% of the expected release, we shall only be able to pay for 20% of the services. That's why you can see a delay in payment of salaries by the respective companies we have engaged. However, there is a hidden issue, which is we used to employ saving schemes called SACCOs before on a casual arrangement or an informal arrangement, where people are employed near where they stay and they do the work and we pay money directly to the SACCOs. Now, when we went to a contracting arrangement where people have performance standards, they have tasks they have to deliver, short of which, if they don't deliver those, we don't pay them. The SACCOs that existed lost about 80% of the work.
Okay.
Now, those employees whose companies lost are the one now creating a problem, because they want their SACCO us to give another contract to their SACCO. Yet the money is already committed to the other 5 contracts.
Okay.
So that's where the dilemma, that's another dilemma hidden behind there. So, and we cannot pay them unless they kind of enter into the current arrangements we have. It's like, Jeremy, you have a job and I don't have a job.
True.
I have children, and they say, for the meantime, go and be at Jeremy's. Jeremy can take care of you for now.
Because he has the job, but
yes,
you do not
yes,
have.
and I don't have. And my child said, no, Daddy, I'm not going nowhere.
I would rather stay here.
Let me stay here. Now that is the crisis we had yesterday. Those who have refused to enter the existing framework so they can get paid, because the work is there, the pay is there. However, they don't want to enter the new arrangements.
Okay.
So that's where the crisis was yesterday, majorly.
Okay. And looking at how this issue to do with the striking workers, how has it affected them as employees? Because, well, you've actually put it better for all the viewers today, is that you contracted different entities that hired these people. But from the outlook of a supervisor as KCCA in this situation, how has this affected their level of work?
From a service delivery point of view, the actual workers out there working are providing the services.
Okay.
Because the companies that were engaged sometimes can borrow money and be able to meet some short-term needs of the employees, because they are now employees of other organizations. The ones that were striking yesterday, we employ about 4,000 workers on a casual basis to do, under those contracting arrangements, to deliver those works, those casual works of sweeping, desilting, and landscaping. 4,000. At City Hall, we had about maybe 120. Now, 120 is not cannot be represented for the 4,000. If at all the 4,000 workers stopped working, you would see the filth in the city. So this was a combination of politics and trying to magnify a problem we're trying to deal with. I mean, all over government, right now the releases are much less than what we budgeted for. So we cannot pay for all the services. It's not like it's deliberate, like we diverted resources. We didn't divert resources. We paid based on what we received. And I'll give an example. Most of the contractors who delivered works for the non-aligned movement are not paid.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they're not paid. We spent about 20 billion. I think we've so far paid like probably 5 billion.
But the payment is still in plan?
It's in plan.
Okay.
Only that those workers or those contractors cannot go out and strike. They cannot come to City Hall.
There are discussions that are ongoing already.
They know how government works. Yes, money will come late, but it will come.
You know, engineer, that brings me to the question of how have you dealt with these people? Because if they have gone on strike, shows that maybe there's something that was not worked upon in regards to the discussions you've had with them. And one would wonder, how have you been interacting with them? Have you had time with their leaders in their respective capacities to try to calm the situation down before it erupted yesterday?
I'd like to be very, very categorical.
Okay.
There is no strike.
Okay. It's more like a simple protest.
It is something created to appear like a strike, but there is no strike.
Okay.
If the actual workers who are doing the work striked, the entire city would feel it.
Okay.
Would feel it. This was more of an attempt to coerce us, push us to relent to our position that unless you enter the existing contracting arrangements to work, we can't pay you outside. Because we've employed given out 5 contracts in each of the respective divisions. Now, we can only pay through those contracts. We cannot pay through any other. All the money we have, we're about 14 billion committed to these services. All that money is committed to these 5 contracts. Now, if you ask us to engage another entity, there's no money for that. That's what we're saying. And these outfits are ready to absorb them. The president even directed that please incorporate the previous workers. We've begged, we've insisted, a number of engagements have been held, but there's been resistance.
Okay.
Yesterday I told them, you're not a political party, you're not a religious movement. Just transferring services and you get paid. You have rent to pay. You have children's school fees to pay. You have food to eat. You cannot afford to have choices of who pays you. Okay? With those basic needs, which you cannot meet, you cannot be in City Hall holding placards.
True.
You get the point? So I have a feeling there is more than meets the eye behind yesterday's activities. It is not failure to pay. It's not lack of work. It is something else. Because we said the work is there, the pay is there. However, go to Jeremy. Jeremy has the contract. He will employ you. Say, no. I can only work with David. Seriously, vulnerable person cannot be making those choices.
True.
And that's where we are.
Okay. Talking matters financial management and transparency, if you can just give us an insight of when you look at this situation, does it provide a clear picture of the financial management in KCCA?
Now, having said that, what manifested yesterday does not represent the true facts on the ground.
Very true.
Yeah. Then you cannot talk of financial management.
Okay.
We've been in these situations in the previous years. People have had salaries delayed. Service providers have had their payments delayed. I'm not saying it's a good practice, but
it happens.
That's the actual situation on the ground. If we're supposed to get I'll give you an example. The road fund was supposed to release, I think, 5 billion for this quarter. They released 2 billion. Now, 2 billion is about, let me say, that is about 40%. Yeah, yes, 40%. Yeah. Now, it will affect who you can pay. You have to make choices. There are critical services that you have to pay. We cannot cut off power. We cannot cut off water. You know, the essential services that
have to continue
now. True. After dealing with the essential services, then you look at what remains for you to pay for service providers.
Okay. And has this, like you've mentioned, that the actual work on ground has not been affected?
No.
But in any way, what to you looked like a strike? Because you've said it isn't a strike. It was made to look like a strike.
Yes.
Did it affect in any way in regards to service delivery?
Of course, now, the truth is, with the service providers not being paid to what their expectations are, or the work they have, the services that they have delivered. Now, this kind of provocation can incite them as well. They could associate with this. But what I'd like to say, it is not intentional on the part of government, on the part of KCCA, for there to be a lapse in our catching up with the payments that are supposed to be paid. So this kind of action that was done yesterday can motivate other people to join.
Okay.
Okay? Because in truth, salary payments for under those contracts are behind by about 3 to 4 months. That's the truth.
Okay. And engineer, when you look at the situation regarding this, according to the public perception, first, it is a strike to the public.
Yes.
And looking at it, how does did you receive any kind of public outcry in the event of the aftermath of what happened yesterday, in just the few hours back?
Of course, there've been some feedback, but many of the experienced service providers know that this is politics. Kampala is a political arena. I mean, to put it in context, you have 120 workers contending that they're striking. You have 4,000 workers on the ground doing the actual work. Now, if at all 4,000 workers did actually strike, City Hall, would be filled up with people.
Okay? So the question goes back to, why is it that we only have a few people here and then we have others who are working?
As I told you, if somebody really does, these are people who are getting about 10,000 shillings a day. If you really don't have money for rent, you don't have money for school fees, you don't have money for food, and I tell you that there's an opportunity for you to get work there, and you say no, and you come and hold placards in City Hall, there is a real story behind all that. It is not that somebody's really aggrieved. There is another message somebody's trying to throw out there. But what we're doing is, of course, for us, for the actual contractors who are actually doing the work down there, we're continuously engaging them. We are, because I think this week we're paying, 1 month's arrears in salaries, in payments due to these service providers, in a bid again to make sure that they also do not feel the brunt of lack of payments, which is facing a number of service providers.
Well, you're here this morning to discuss issues of what appeared to be a strike to you. And of course, my other question is going to simply try to understand, in such circumstances, can you paint for us a picture of your kind of role in dealing with such situations?
Of course, as leaders in KCCA, we are at the forefront of engaging stakeholders, managing the image of the institution. Such occurrences do not lend a good picture of the activities we do. To put that in context, these are just 4,000 workers providing services of sweeping, desilting drainages, and managing landscaping activities. But if you look at how many people are engaged in the markets, we have about 400,000 people in the markets. They come. In the taxi industry, we have over 100,000 people who are in there. All this is in the informal sector, the border industry. So we have many moving parts of the city we're managing. Sometimes some things slip through the cracks, like yesterday's activity. Yesterday we had gotten intelligence that yes, there were some people who were trying to organize a strike, but and then of course in the morning they were organized outside the gate, and we said let's take this activity off the streets of Kampala because it was disrupting traffic. Then we took them in City Hall. Then we began the engagement to try and understand what can we do.
Okay.
Is it work that is your problem? Let me show you where the work is. Is it payment that is a problem? Let me show you where you can get paid. But that seemed not to work.
Engineer, from again, from the public's perspective, of what impact does this situation have on your side, in regards to buying the public trust in such situations? Because a couple of times when the public gets to hear such news circulating around, their concern is, should we continue trusting KCCA on such matters of running the capital? What impact does such a situation have on your side?
I don't want to understate the impact of even a false narrative. Okay. I don't want to understate the impact, especially when it is speaking to facts that actually exist. Okay? because yesterday's event that appeared like a strike was speaking to the actual fact that people were actually behind. We are behind on payments to them. So we are in a kind of complicated position. We cannot downplay. It was speaking to some of the things on the ground. However, I would like to assure the public, this is not affecting service delivery. The contractors who, because they have contracts with us, we have an obligation to pay them. And government has never failed to pay. Government has never failed to pay. That's one fact. So the fact that these service providers have contracts, they can actually even borrow money from banks to be able to meet their short-term obligations, although it will cost them in terms of shaving back on their profit margin, because the bank you have to pay interest whenever you have to borrow that money. But they have contracts, they have legal instruments that can show that government has engaged them.
Okay. Let's look at the long-term solutions. What measures are you going to employ this time round? Because you've mentioned the fact that these are things that happen, or occurrences that, do happen because of the grievances will never end, really. But looking at the long-term measures to curb such situations, what is KCCA planning on employing?
Of course, this particular situation, of course, as I told you, there's something behind the scenes.
You said there's a lot of politicking at play.
Where people have decided to make a choice on who pays them or who employs them. And those choices have limited our ability to resolve their grievances. You cannot be looking for a job and you want to determine who gives you the work and who pays you. Okay? Now, we're going to issue a circular, I think today or tomorrow, to all those aggrieved parties who have refused to join. We are going to have a deadline of 29th of February. 29th of February we shall cut off. They should either have joined any of the contracted entities so they can get work and get paid. Short of that, they stop being our employees. And moving forward, of course, we also want to have a code of ethics, a code of conduct signed off by each of our employees, even if they're engaged by our service providers. There are certain, they don't need to associate with otherwise political activities that are not related to their job of delivering services, because now that distorts the entire picture of what we do at City Hall.
When it comes to solidarity and working together, do we have any organization, or if I'm to say, do we have any parties or NGOs that were supportive of the move by some of these employees?
It was not any of the
usual
ones. No NGOs, but it's the usual politics of Kampala.
Okay.
Trying to agitate people.
So we had a group of individuals.
Kampala is politics. Kampala is politics. We have the technical wing that is this side trying to do the technical work. We also have a fully fledged political wing, which will, at any grievance, will be given prominence.
Okay.
Even if the grievance can be managed, because we had a sit down yesterday, and I also emphasized that the party that pays, the party that can engage these people, should not be in an issue. You cannot come to me looking for work and you say you cannot be, you're looking for work, you don't have a job. The only job I have is with party X. I tell you, please go and do that work. And say, no, I can't do that work. Meanwhile, I don't have means to live. That is the paradox we have in City Hall. Okay. That's what happened yesterday.
But again, one would ask still, does, let's say, KCCA as an organization have maybe some support coming in through, besides the government, really? Have you gotten some support of people backing you in such a circumstance? Or have you ever got support coming in from different, NGOs, or let's say civil society organizations, or even the private sector, in circumstances where everyone is pointing fingers at the council?
I want to try and put in context the size of magnitude of business we have.
Okay.
We contract out services for up to around, let me say, 300 billion a year. 300 billion. Now, 300 billion, if I contrast that with the magnitude of the work that was in contention yesterday, which is about 14 billion, 14 billion is probably around 0.5%, if I'm not mistaken. 0.5% of our entire outlay that we're managing. So that is what we're dealing with yesterday. Now, if all the service providers that we are dealing with decided to strike, the city would practically close down.
The chaos would be noticed
yes,
everywhere.
I'm trying to put in context.
Yes.
Yesterday, yes, it was a small issue, but related to the bigger problem, but not speaking, take advantage of the bigger problem to advance another issue. The other issue is, please give a contract to these people who have refused to join the existing frameworks.
Okay.
So nobody can claim that KCCA has failed the previous workers to give them an opportunity to work and earn a living. Now, these people are trying to now milk that, now riding on other issues that we are facing. Yes, there is delayed pay. That's a fact. But then you're not going to twist us into giving you a contract, ostensibly under cover of riding on the problems we have.
Okay, an engineer, when it comes to human resource management and also workers' welfare policies that KCCA employs in regards to such circumstances, what are some of those particular policies that you have in place as KCCA? Because in circumstances where we are seeing these casual workers or some of the casual workers trying to come up with a strike, how about in situations whereby those in the, working with the city hall directly, or those who are contracted, or those who are employees fully at KCCA getting into such situations? How do you deal with such, uprisings?
Of course, it is through engagement, continuous communication. The challenge is we are facing a real problem as a country and as a government. The issue of delayed payment is everywhere. And the only thing is to give our service providers and our workers assurance that eventually government will honor its obligation, as it always has. So the only thing we're trying to now change is also, we've discovered that being employed on a casual basis without a formal kind of code of conduct, in that some of these workers can be lured into activities that are unrelated to their work, which serve other purposes that are not related to what KCCA's mission and vision is a problem. Because like yesterday's workers, you can imagine a worker threatening their leader. If you're a worker, you're abusing your leader. You're abusing the person supposed to help you.
Okay.
For heaven's sake, I was there because I'm paid. For me, I'm paid. My salary goes through public service. And I'm looking at a lady there saying she cannot pay her rent. She does not have school fees for her children. Children are at home. She doesn't have food. And I'm saying, please, there is an opportunity here where you can go and get employed, meet those basic needs so that you can survive. Then they're hurling insults, throwing papers at me. I said, what kind of, am I really trying to solve a problem? Are these people really afflicted by the problem they claim to be having? You can imagine you're hungry, you don't have food, and you're abusing somebody who's trying to help you get food.
Okay.
So there is something more than meets the eye.
Okay.
In our situation.
Well, engineer, I do have a comment, some comments coming through. I'll go through one for the moment. This one says that linking yesterday's strike to only politics is not entirely that. He says that there are poor people whose services towards the betterment of this city need to be treasured. This one does believe that the politics is there, but it's not something that we can link to the entire up strike yesterday.
As I told you, we have about 400,000 people in markets. These are not even being paid by government. 400,000 people go in the market every day to sell their merchandise or carry goods, push wheelbarrows, do all manner of things. Those are stakeholders in the city. We have about 100,000 people driving taxis and operating taxis in the city. We have about 200,000 people engaged in the border business. Okay? Yes, 4,000 people who are paid by government are critical. And those actual people who are working were not the ones at City Hall. The ones at City Hall are were looking for a contract to be given a separate contract so they can be paid for services that have already been let out.
Okay.
Which created a problem. When I told them the true picture that we cannot give out a contract where we don't have additional resources, that's where the thing broke up, when the meeting descended into chaos.
Okay, and Oken Peter has a comment saying, good morning viewers, it's very painful to use someone and they don't pay them as agreed. He does reveal that our leaders should know that we are all equal when it comes to being employed at a job. We are all of importance to the institution that employed us. Then why then treat us differently? Some are paid whereas others are told to wait for 6 months. So this is Oken Peter saying the situation on ground should entirely show that there is some level of discrimination in a way. What is your comment on that? Where he's actually calling for equality in regards to payments and treatment of employees.
As I told you earlier, if we get if our releases are standing at 40%, we shall only pay 40% of the services.
Because that is what you've received.
That's what we've received. And we apportion that 40% based on how many people we have to pay. We pay each provider 40% of
what you've received.
What we've received. Now, that creates problems with how they're able also to pay their workers.
Okay.
That is a reality.
Okay.
Now, we cannot run away from that reality. But, of course, some people use that reality to try and portray another picture that there's unfairness. But how can there be unfairness when actually what's coming into the coffers of government is less than what government anticipated?
Okay.
So government releases less so that it can at least be able to pay for what it has for now. And then somebody says you're being unfair.
Okay. And just to give you a clear picture to our dear viewer today, is according to what the engineers actually put in place is that most of these casual workers are rather contracted through entities. Or what you could say, KCCA does contract different entities within the public sector to hire these people, and KCCA pays direct to the contractors or these entities, whose duty is to make sure that they clear off the grievances of the same. And again, when you look at what happens, it is highly affected by how much KCCA receives from the ministry or from the government, if I'm to put it in that way. So if KCCA receives less of the money, it is what they have to first offer in order to first deal with the pending issues at hand, as they also wait for more money coming in from the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development. Engineer,
yes.
To just get a vote of confidence as KCCA, what would you assure these employees who are having their grievances and are watching us this morning?
Thank you for giving me this opportunity. First and foremost, we are equally pained by the situation that our workers go through by having their salaries delayed. We derive no joy in sitting in offices while our workers continue to suffer. We're doing all we can to ensure that all resources we get, we prioritize the payment for basic social services. But of course, we are limited by the resources we get. If we get 40% of what we need to pay, we shall only release that 40%. We can have no way of creating new resources. The assurance I can give you is that government has never failed to meet its obligations. Eventually, we shall be able to pay. We shall now also be working with the contracted entities to see that we can get some kind of patient loaning services so that they can at least be able to pay the salaries of their workers, not going to these high interest rate loaning banks. So we shall try to see that we discover new areas of creating money that has low interest rates that can be used to ensure that workers don't suffer from delayed payments from their employers.
Okay, and let me get to one more comment before we do close up with our conversation. This says, a warm good morning, I'm Raphael. Well, I'm asking the Deputy ED will there be a date for their payment made public? Because if everyone is entitled to be paid per month, so we need clarity at the end of the day in regards to when this would happen.
As I said, we employed contractors or service providers to do this work. So, and receive money on a quarterly basis. Now we're going to go into the fourth quarter. The fourth quarter is the last quarter. So all obligations must be settled by the end of June. So all I can say that all the obligations are expected to be settled by the end of June this year, whereby even the salariers will be settled.
And what would be your parting shots as we are winding up with our conversation this morning?
My parting shot is that, of course, Kampala is a big enterprise with many moving parts. Sometimes the part you see is not the main part. Okay. And not saying, while saying that, I'm not saying the small parts are less important. They're also very, very important. Now, the incident that happened yesterday is more than meets the eye. Our workers, we highly respect them and highly regard them. They're the frontline workers who keep the city clean, give the city the what should I call it? The clean look it has and the green look it has. So they're very, very, very vital in our service delivery function. So I'd like to assure workers that we shall honor our obligations in terms of payment of services provided, and they should not be misled into the notion that government will renege on its obligation to pay for services that have been provided. And I want to thank them for their continued service.
All right.
Yes.
Many thanks for being part of our discussion this morning. And there you have it with Engineer David Luimbaza, who is the Deputy Executive Director of Kampala City Council Authority, giving us some clarity of what is happening on ground in regards to salary grievances of the casual workers in Kampala City Council, or those who are actually attached to the KCCA as employees. But besides that, to all of you who have actually been part of our discussion here by sharing your views and opinions, many thanks for that. Esther Caroline Esedi says she does follow the morning show daily before she goes to work. Well, many thanks for doing that. And we do this for many of your nature in regards to inspiring Ugandans every morning. And agenda does come to one end today, but stick around because more is yet to come this morning. Ruben Pima Chivirango is coming up next with sports for all the sports lovers and fanatics. But then I'll be back at 9 o'clock with the GMU Extra. So stick around to UBC. Good morning.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Pick of the day on UBC. Was brought to you by
MTN Momo Pay is the easy way to pay. Dial *165*3# or use the MTN Momo app. You don't need cash. MTN Momo Pay is safe and free.
Junko. Yo. Wachiko. Check the shopping man. What's your secret?
Uganda, haven't you heard of the parish development model PDM?
Yes, I did, but I thought it was just a talk.
No, it is real. I and a few friends together formed a circle, accessed money from the PDM, invested in a poultry project, and now things are moving.
Junko. I thought I was one of your friends.
You are,
but you left me behind.
I didn't leave you in poverty. What you do, just visit your LC2 chairperson and your parish chief, and start the process of economic transformation. Just like that. The parish development model is an initiative from the government of Uganda through the Ministry of Local Government, designed to transform all lives of Ugandans for the better. PDM, my parish, my development, my life.
UBC is the national public broadcaster. We educate, inform, entertain, and inspire our audiences. You can watch us on channel 001, DSTV channel 282, GoTV channel 371, Star Times channel 201, Zuku TV channel 20, and Azam TV channel 350. Even when your subscription expires, you can still watch UBC for free on your pay TV platforms.
Who else can support with some offense as well?
Knicks start off the night 34-23, 19-9 at home, but they kicks it out in the corner. Josh Hart off the bounce. Ball knocked loose, picked up by Achua. Layup is good. He seems to be around the bucket all the time. Ivy kicks it out. Cunningham launches the three-pointer. That's good. Well, the first time these two teams played, the Knicks were up by one after the first. It was tied at halftime, and they trailed after three. Oh, what a move, Brunson. He's kind of swerving across the lane and floats it up and in. High draft pick last season, made all-rookie second team. Drives on Arnstein, the floater's up, comes short. Nobody went after him. DiVincenzo drives inside. Beautiful move from Dante DiVincenzo.
Now start to step it up and bring it at a different level as the Pistons came into this game ready to fight.
Nice move there from Cunningham. The Twins, they're really good defenders.
Yep. Great length, great athleticism. It's the shot making.
What a pass. Cunningham inside to Wiseman. And the Pistons back up by one. Hart catches, drives inside. Nice adjustment, but in and out won't go. Sims the rebound in traffic. Alec Burks' first shot of the night is good.
That's good to see. Struggled with his three ball against the Celtics.
Tried to get it down to Wiseman. Saved it, but right to Burks. Into the hands of Brunson. Burks. Shot is good, and the foul. Burks felt the contact, threw it up on the rim, and a chance for a three-point play. As the shot clock is turned off. Flynn, crossover. Drew some contact. Monty Williams upset. Nice move from Flynn.
Good morning. My name is Ruben Mp Mashvidango. I'm glad and blessed to be here this morning. I know it's been raining from last night to late early morning. And whoever's still at home, kindly carry your rainy coats, your jackets, your umbrellas. It is raining. Is it cats and dogs, or it is something else? Anyway, where it has stopped, we thank God for the downpour. It's been hot throughout the last month and this month as well. So once we receive some drops, we feel like there's relief, and we thank the Almighty God for that. And of course, for those who are watching, especially Sarah, I send you my regards. Thanks so much for watching UBC TV. I'm pretty sure that you're enjoying the show. You did send a comment here when the Deputy ED was here about the KCC and the delayed salaries. And the comment was well received, Sarah. You don't have to be harsh on the big man. You've got to be a bit flexible to accommodate what he says. And you know, it's a process. Salaries is a process, but those workers will be paid according to KCC's plan. And we believe that they will fulfill their promise as KCC, as workers also take care of their bills. It's good to offer a service and get a reward in terms of payment. Well, away from that, into sports, I did watch the clip of NBA highlights. And this morning we had a couple of games that were played. The Pacers did lose the Raptors. That was 130 for the Raptors, 122 for the Pacers. We had the Knicks beating the Pistons, 113 to 111 for the Pistons. Then the Brooklyn Nets did beat the Grizzlies, 111 to 86. And lastly, this morning, the last game of the day was the Kings taking on the Miami Heat, and by the end of the fourth quarter, actually the Heat had taken the day, 121 to 110 for the Sacramento Kings. As you come into studio tomorrow, there will be several games that will be played in NBA. The first game will be at 3:30, and that game will be at the Rocket Mortgage Field House. The Cavs will take on the Mavericks. And then the second game at 3 a.m. As well at the Capital One Arena, the Wizards will take on the Golden State Warriors. And then, of course, at 3:30 a.m. at the State Farm Arena, the Hawks will take on the Jazz. That will be at 3:30. And of course, at 3:30 as well, at the TD Garden, the Celtics will be playing against the 76ers. And then, of course, the Knicks will take on the Pelicans. That will be at the Madison Square Garden at 3:30 as well. At 4 a.m. Tomorrow morning, we'll have the Bulls take on the Pistons. That game will be at the United Center. And the Bucks will take on the Hornets. And that game will be at the FISA Forum at 4 a.m. tomorrow morning. Then lastly, the Portland Trail Blazers at 6 a.m. will take on the Miami Heat, and that game will be at the Moda Center. That is NBA for you, basketball for you. So you can catch all the games on your pay TV channels. Of course, other games you'll have OKC will take on the Rockets. Then the Wolves will take on the Spurs. Those are the other two games that will be taking place in the NBA regular season basketball. Well, away from that into football, yesterday I did manage to watch the game between West Ham and Brentford. By the end of 90 minutes, West Ham had actually carried the day. They did beat Brentford by 4 goals to 2. The early brace from Gerard Bowen. What a game that he had yesterday or last night, Gerard Bowen. He bagged the hat-trick in the 50th minute, 7th minute, and 63rd minute for Gerard Bowen. And then Emerson, the Italian, scored the 4th to give West Ham or the Hammers that deserved 4-2 win over Brentford. But of course, what boosted David Moyes' team was the return of Paqueta, the Brazilian. That gave them confidence midfield, that gives them creativity, and Gerard Bowen is back to his confidence, is back to his form, and who knows, he might be in for other goals. But scoring a hat-trick against Brentford gave him an extra bit of boost and confidence that he can thrive on. But the lineups that played I'll start with the West Ham lineup. They had Ariola in goal. The back four had Movro, Panos, Zuma, Emerson, and Kufo. Then, of course, the two midfielders, the sitting midfielders had Thomas Sushek and Alvarez. Then the three midfielders behind Gerard Bowen were Paqueta, Ward-Prowse, and Muhammad Kudus, the African Ghanaian, or the Ghanaian midfielder, who is actually part of the goals there. Then, of course, the side of Brentford, we had Mope and Ivan Toney up front. Region, Jansen, Nogard, Onyeka, and Lewis Potter were in the midfield. And the back three had Ben Mee, Aya, and Zanka. Of course, Flecken was in goal for Team Brentford. They lost 4-2 to the energized West Ham. What a game of football that it was for the Hammers. Of course, in the Italian Serie A, we had Roma at the Stadio Olimpico beat Torino by 3-2 goals from Dybala penalty, and of course Dybala had a hat-trick in that game. I scored 3 goals for Roma, and Zapata scored for Torino, as well as Hussein in the 89th minute, and that own goal. But for me, Paul Dybala was at his best, beating Torino by 3-2. Roma at the Stadio Olimpico, we are firing from all corners, Stadio Olimpico. I remember that when Peter Drury, when Roma beat Barcelona 3-0 in 2018. Peter Drury had actually he's a poet. For me, if you ask me, that man is a poet. The way Manuel scored the 3rd goal and how he came up with the kind of poetry that he came up with. Just imagine a commentator in just a blink of an eye saying that Manuelas, the man from Mount Olympus, how he got that anyway. And then, of course, went ahead to say, goes the 7 hills of of Rome and performs a miracle. What a goal from Manolas. Then, of course, it talks about Dzeko and De Rossi. Daniel De Rossi now is the coach of Roma. In that game, they did beat Barcelona unexpectedly. I remember him saying that but this is special. This is very, very special. And you could clearly see what he was thinking as Peter Drury. But of course, Peter Otaya and Peter Drury are almost people. And of course, Jermaine Negesa, one of the best commentators we've had in my time, if you ask me. My time is almost up. But Jermaine Negesa and Peter Otaya locally here are the best commentators I've ever listened to in my entire career. So when I watched Roma Barcelona and Peter Drury had that kind of poetry. Drury is a poet. There are words he comes up with that is only from him. Anyway, but that's a go from Paul Dybala. That showed the class and quality of the Argentine. Look at that for me, the bend and the execution was super from Paul Dybala. Anyway, when I talk about Roma, I might not end, but that Roman team that beat Barcelona was something that I did see coming. Anyway, Fiorentina did beat Lazio by 2-1. Goals are from Coyote and Bonaventura. Gave Fiorentina that 2-1 win against Lazio. As Lazio's goal came from Alberto Anderson. That they couldn't beat Fiorentina away in Florence. Then, of course, in La Liga, we had one game in La Liga. Girona did beat Rayo Vallecano by 3-0. Goals from Savio. And, of course, Sigankov gave that Girona a deserved win against Rayo Vallecano. So unless otherwise, I've got a few messages here that I can handle Okay, I get your message, Sarah. How are you? How is everything at home? You seem to be bored. You know, when that's the issue of having a few children. When others go to school, you get bored at home and start asking the husband to come back early. And the husband is very busy. I don't think he's going to come back early home. That is from Sarah. Message. I've seen the messages here, Sarah. Don't worry. Then Manuel says that, good morning, Ruben. I like the fact that West Ham did get back to winning ways. Oh yeah, they did get back to winning ways by beating Brentford by 4-2. Then Pixel said that, what's up with the yellow man? Are you part of the Chadondo? Okay, yes, I am part of Chadondo. Chadondo is in Uganda, I'm Ugandan. So what are you asking me? Is that Sports Even? Pixel. Samuel Balagade says that as we celebrate the win, we should also talk about Milan drawing their game over the weekend, Ruben. Why is it that when Milan loses, you don't talk about it? Now, Samuel Balagade, you are just attacking me for no good reason. I talk about AC Milan when they lose a game. Felix Okecho says that we are live clear in Arua City. Okay, Felix Okecho, good that you are watching. Lastly, but not the least, more messages here are not really friendly with what we are discussing this morning. There are more of Rimbas who was here talking about KC and the striking workers. Ian Lumanyika, how are you today? I hope you're fine. I've seen the message here. Then Keza finally says that Forza Italia, Forza Regazi. Good morning, Ruben. I just love the yellow. Okay. With that, with the yellow, I've got to leave it at this. I will prepare way for Jerome Paul Sonko, take you through Game Extra, but we'll be here tomorrow to take you through 6:30 to the hour of 9. Good morning.
Live from UPC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Pick of the day on UBC. Was brought to you by
MTN Momo Pay is the easy way to pay. Dial *165*3# or use the MTN Momo app. You don't need cash. MTN Momo Pay is safe and free.
Movit Harbor Jelly and Harbor Soap.
Yes, it backs.
It will protect your skin from skin rashes.
Movit back.
It is a new improved Movit Harbor Jelly. So soft and smooth.
It is a Movit Harbor Jelly.
Tell me, kids, the scent. Any irritations? No more rashes and irritations. Movit Harbor Jelly and Harbor Soap is rich in natural herbs for a smooth and glowing skin.
Movit, all their confidence.
Welcome to Dade Nursery and Primary School, Luzira.